Well, LeBron James has always been very complimentary of Allen Iverson. He even called Iverson his second favorite player growing up after Michael Jordan. But as a basketball role model, Iverson rated #1. LeBron told the Bleacher Report, I didn't want to be Michael or Magic. I wanted to be Allen Iverson. Stephen A., I don't know why. I think I know your answer, but does this surprise you about LeBron?
Not at all. When you look at what LeBron has done off the court, whereas people would say that has no relation to Allen Iverson at all, it actually does. Because one of the things that Allen Iverson, one of the reasons why he's so revered by his contemporaries within the NBA is not just because he was electric as a basketball player. It's because he did things his own way. He didn't confine himself to conventional wisdom. He does, to some degree, he bucked the system. Now, obviously, there are things that he wishes he would have done differently. Nobody knows that better than me. He and I talk all the time. Skip, you know I love him like a brother. But there are things that he could have done differently, which he openly admits he could have. But by and large, when you see guys harboring a strong level of admiration for him, it's based upon the fact that he didn't comply with what society said you're supposed to be, what you're supposed to look like, what you're supposed to dress like, how you're supposed to carry yourself, who you're supposed to get along with, the company that you're supposed to keep, etc., etc. And although you can look at a bevy of things and say you wish Allen Iverson would have done that differently, the overall message that comes with it is independence. And that's what a guy like LeBron James aspires, not just for himself, but for other professional athletes more so than anybody. It's one of the reasons, Skip Bayless, why a guy like Floyd Money Mayweather, these guys reach out to him all the time and talk to him because they want to know how he went about the business of getting rid of the constraints to hold him back, betting on himself, being in a position where he's empowered himself, where he's an employer instead of an employee, and he's getting all of this money, and he has such incredible control over his own destiny. That's LeBron James. You look at the commercials, you look at the money that LeBron James generates, you look at the endorsement deals that he has. He doesn't just get a check for endorsing products. Him in conjunction with Rich Paul, with Maverick Carter, with Mark Termini and those boys, they've arranged it and manipulated it so LeBron James actually gets a piece of the action. Beats by Dre. You know, when LeBron invested in that and collected tens of millions of dollars off of that alone, the list goes on and on. You know, communicating and being friends with a Warren Buffett. Those things matter. They resonate profoundly because what he's trying to do is basically establish himself as his own entity. He's already done it, obviously, but I'm just saying that was always the goal. When J.R. Smith and Amon Shumpert arrived, LeBron let them know this ain't a game. This is about business. This is about the end results and reaping the benefits from it, and basically allowing yourself to be independent. So once your career is over, you don't have to lean on anybody to move forward in life. This is the kind of things he's preached to Melo. These are the kind of things he's preached to Dwayne Wade and Chris Bosh and beyond, and Kevin Durant and all of these guys. He's always been about that. And it emanates from a guy like Allen Iverson. Not necessarily to perfection, but I'm just saying Allen Iverson's willingness to stand on his own 2 feet and be who he is and who he wants to be. Guys like LeBron and others have always appreciated that about AI. That is why he will be loved eternally by these players.
Yeah. You are uniquely qualified to comment on this. Obviously, Allen's story didn't have the happiest ending, although I think it's getting a little happier now that he's starting to get his life back on track.
Significantly happier. Yeah. Significantly happier now.
Yes. So I appreciate that. I must admit, more from a distance, I was a little surprised when I first heard LeBron talk about how much he idolized AI. I get it because of the cool factor. Allen Iverson, to me, was the coolest basketball player ever. And in part, it was because he broke that mold. He did not let convention or expectation constrain him. And there was much more to be respected, even admired about Allen's game to me, and you know it very well, Stephen A., but was there ever a gutsier player, a more courageous player? How many nights did you watch him drive the basketball again and again and again into those trees, among those 7-footers, and what was he, 6 feet tall maybe? And the punishment that he took, crashing to the floor time and time again. A lot of players will forever admire just the way he played. He played so hard. I know he freelanced a lot on defense, but he just played hard from start to finish. And we all respected that, and I know LeBron did. Obviously, the reason it shakes you up to think of LeBron and AI is that LeBron knew how to play the game the right way from the start. As soon as I started seeing him, his junior year in high school on national TV, I could tell he knew how to play. He had the gift of passing the basketball. Coaches, and he's talked about many of them from second grade up, taught him the right way to play basketball. So you would think that Magic would have been his idol, because he was a young Magic Johnson as a, soon-to-be 6'9" point guard. And obviously, Michael Jordan was the preeminent superstar of LeBron's childhood. So you could see where he would idolize Michael. But again, he never seemed to idolize Magic's game as much as he idolized the way that AI played. And that shakes me up a little bit, because I would have thought that it would be Magic. He would pattern himself after Magic more.
Well, the reason why he didn't pattern himself after Magic more, Skip, I'm sure you can appreciate this, is that Magic, obviously Magic and Bird were responsible for taking the NBA to another stratosphere. Well, Magic Johnson, and we all love and respect Magic Johnson. He's a role model. We idolize him in a lot of ways. I know I do. But we need to highlight why guys may have leaned towards an Allen Iverson as opposed to a Magic. Magic, the system itself, and America being what and who it is, gravitated towards Magic because Magic had that magnetic smile. He didn't just have a great game. He wasn't just a champion, but he wasn't somebody who put you off. He was somebody that just ingratiated himself with practically everyone he saw, regardless of color, ethnicity, background, culture, etc. Magic was that kind of magnetic figure. What you have to understand is that most young African Americans don't believe they'll be able to successfully pull that off. When you're at a young age, you're essentially taught that the system is never going to gravitate towards you per se. It's never going to embrace you on that level. There are always a few exceptions, the Magics, the Michaels, etc. But by and large, you're not going to be somebody that they're interested in ingratiating themselves with, and vice versa. Therefore, don't look at that as something that's normal or obtainable. Look at that as the extreme aberration that it was. In the case of Allen Iverson, you look at yourself and you see him. You see him from the perspective, not just the cornrows or the tats or whatever. You see yourself in him because you saw how at times he was a pariah. At times he seemed to have the odds stacked against him. At times he seemed to be somebody that so many people wanted to and wished that he had failed. But he succeeded anyway. So you're talking about perseverance. You're talking about resiliency. You're talking about a die-hard mentality, overcoming all the odds, the bowling alley brawl, being incarcerated, being granted clemency by the governor of Virginia at the time, Douglas Wilder. All of these things that transpired spoke not just to the greatness of Allen Iverson, the player, but it was indicative of something that the entire African American community could relate to from an historic perspective. So if you're a LeBron James and you're on the come up, even though you know and hear about the greatness that appears to be imminent when it comes to you, you're looking at yourself and you're saying, who am I in all likelihood most relatable to? Who is the pioneer that's going to set the path that I'm destined to follow in? That would be Allen Iverson, not Magic Johnson.
Okay, so you brought up Floyd Mayweather Jr.
Yes.
Would you agree that Magic Johnson has been as successful in business as Floyd has been, just on earning power? And I know Floyd obviously had to buck the system to make the money. I don't know. It'd be close, but Magic didn't. Yeah, Magic didn't have to buck the system to become a wealthy man and a very successful businessman.
Yes,
he went with the flow. He went with the system, while Floyd bucked the system and did it his way and pulled it off.
Yeah.
So,
but the flip, but here's I know you're right. It's two different things, but it also speaks to exactly what I said. Magic, whether it's the Guggenheim, I think it's the name, the Guggenheim Group or whomever, it's Magic's name attached to a bunch of billionaires who don't look like him but have more money than him. So as a result, he's ingratiated himself with them. Whereas in the case of Floyd Money Mayweather, not only did he earn his money boxing in the ring, but he's connected to Al Heyman, who happens to be an African American. You got, Leonard Ellaby, who's the CEO of Mayweather Promotions, who's an African American, and he's making his money through business, but not necessarily endorsements. So it's based on his performance and his performance reaping the financial benefits of its success, whereas Magic, again, successfully went about the business of ingratiating himself with those in positions of power. They, in turn, accepted him and embraced him, and that's the way he got his money. In most instances, you can't find a black man who, particularly a young black man, who believes that they can pull off what Magic pull off. But you do believe you could pull off what Money Mayweather pulled off, because you believed you could pull off what Iverson pulled off, because it's more relatable.
All right. Gentlemen.
Okay, last quick question.
Okay, quickly.
Last quick question.
Yep.
Okay, so Stephen A., is LeBron pulling it off in business more like Magic or more like Floyd?
More like Magic, because America, the masses, has embraced LeBron.